All right. Welcome back to part two of my PL predictions for Gameweek 1 of this Premier League campaign, season 24-25. We're now on to the second half of the games. I finished off with my sneaky and very punchy 1-1 score, Newcastle against Southampton, with Newcastle being the home team. I'm now going to move on to my next team, and the next game after that is Nottingham Forest at home against Bournemouth. And I actually think Forest Santo's not the most convincing manager. He did well enough last season that they will keep him. He kept Forest up even with their points deduction, so they've given him another season, which in itself is impressive because, Nottingham Forest and Chelsea are the two most ruthless clubs when it comes to sacking managers based off a couple of poor games. Steve Cooper did wonders with Nottingham Forest, and as soon as the form dipped for, 5, 6, 7 games, he was gone. And he's not funny enough the Leicester boss, which we'll then get to later. But yeah, Espirito Santo, they just survived. They only got 29 points last season, which is very poor for a team, surviving. That's a very low total for a team to actually survive. Most of the time, anything under 35, you're definitely gone. So they were lucky that Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield were so poor last season, actually. And even with Solanke gone now for Bournemouth, you know what? As we saw with Kane when he left, sometimes, ironically, you end up with a bit of a bounce for some reason. I'm not entirely sure, but you get some kind of momentum. Some other guys on the team kind of try to pitch up a bit. Manager switches things up a little bit, and Antonio really likes to play attacking football like Ange. And Bournemouth might still even have another striker in before that game. They've been looking at Eddie Nketiah, I think, has been their number one target from Arsenal. I think it would be pretty solid. But even with the other attackers they have, I think they definitely have too much quality for this Nottingham Forest team, and they're way too exciting of a team to probably be beaten by this Nottingham Forest team, even away from home. So I'm going to say Nottingham Forest 0, Bournemouth 3. Quite a big one there. I'm going for Bournemouth in their first post-Dom Solanke era. All right, into the next game. Now, this I think is going to probably be one of the best games of the weekend. It's basically the battle of two teams that have had probably in the top 4 of windows this season for Premier League clubs. And that's West Ham at home against Aston Villa. I wouldn't have predicted West Ham to have had as good a window as what they've had, or for me to really rate them as highly as I am going into the season based just off this window. It's always a bit risky doing that because you don't know how it's going to gel, but it's difficult to hide from that kind of thing. West Ham, I think this is going to be a very exciting game, and I think actually just as they've really both been good and consistent and almost equal in transfer windows and quality of players brought in, I think they're going to be pretty equal in this game, and I think that'll be a hell of a point for West Ham. So I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to say West Ham 2, Aston Villa 2. It's going to be the most exciting game probably of the ones I've done so far, probably I expect it to probably be, to be honest. It's one of the higher profile games as well, the two biggish, the up and coming teams again pitting against each other and trying to put their first nail in the coffin for the season going ahead. And it's a pretty big game for both of them actually. So I'm going to say a nice draw. West Ham, Lopetegui, Aston Villa, Unai Emery. Yeah, West Ham 2, Aston Villa 2. Next one, Brentford versus Crystal Palace. I think this will be the game with the most goals. For some strange reason, I just think so. Just because it's such a random game, random mid-table tussle. I do think it's gonna have some moments. I think Crystal Palace are better than Brentford now. I think firmly they are better. Glasner's done brilliantly with them. Second half of last season, took them on an unbeaten run for a while. And if they had that same form the whole season last season, they could have easily finished in the top 7. As it was, they finished 10th. So not bad for them. They finished. Their teams tend to be the team that nails on 12th. So 10th was really good for them. And I think they're going to be much of the same this season, if not maybe 1 or 2 places higher. They lost Michael Lise as a big loss, but they brought in Ismail Assar to replace him on that winger. He's not as dynamic, apparently. He's nowhere near as dynamic. You can't really replace you can't replace very effectively, or someone like Elisa, the impact Elisa had at Palace. So, but they have for now kept Eberechi Eze, which I think is quite massive. I think if they lose Eze before the end of the window, which I think would either be to Spurs or Manchester City, I do then think they're going to struggle. I think they will then drop into the bottom 10, maybe like back to 12th, 13th, 14th. If they keep Eze, I'm going to say they could sneak top 10. I think 10, 9, maybe even 8. I don't think they're really quite good enough for Europe yet, but keep Eze, play well. Glasner keeps up some form. 8, 9, 12 in the realms of possibility. Brentford now, Igor Thiago injured. That's a great pity for them. And I think it's maybe even a bigger pity for Ivan Toney, because I think he was really hoping for that move away. I don't think he wanted to be playing in this opening league fixture. And I think it's almost, I would say it's about 90 to 100% guaranteed now that that he's going to be playing this weekend for Brentford as their striker. I think both teams are going to have a bit of a go of it. I think Brentford, Crystal Palace will have too much though, even though Brentford are a home team. So I'm going to go Brentford 2, Crystal Palace 3. All right, second last game. Chelsea, this is on Sunday night. Chelsea versus, well, scrap that. I don't actually know if it's Sunday night, but it's on Sunday. Chelsea against Manchester City. Chelsea are the home team, which I think will help them a little bit, but they haven't been anywhere near convincing this preseason. I think they've only won something like 2 of their games, and some of the opposition they've lost to hasn't been super great opposition either. Maresca's just come in, he's trying to get his techniques in. Chelsea, yet again, some of these players are now going through their 3rd or 4th manager in just over 2 years, which is really very I mean, I've got to respect the players for constantly adapting, the ones that are still there, that have stayed through all of this, because especially the ones that know no different, the ones that came in and this is all they know of Chelsea. It's Chelsea, for them, Chelsea has been this, and I think that's difficult for players to come into a club and then things just keep changing. Your role, you get settled into one role, someone else comes in and says, no, I want this role. Someone gets comfortable and says, I like it, I'm performing well, this manager likes me. The next one comes and says, you know what, I don't rate you. I mean, that's always good for some, but then also bad for others. I don't know. But I don't think City are going to bulldoze this just because Chelsea are at home. The fans might get a bit behind them. They have had a pretty solid window, I'm not going to lie. Probably also put them in the top 5 of the windows. They have mostly signed very young, up-and-coming people, but they have signed, 1 or 2 pretty high caliber. I think Pedro Neto is probably... I would consider so far Pedro Neto to be their marquee signing. Got him for they paid, I think it was 63 million to Wolves for Pedro Neto. And then I think there's even some add-ons added on to that. So, yeah, he's definitely their statement signing. I think he will do well unless he gets injured. Unfortunately, he's a very injury-prone player, so... he's one of those guys that, he's at risk the first 3-4 games of the season. He might, if he snaps a hamstring or something, then it's that's then very that'll be unfortunate for them, especially financially wise, if he has to then miss most of the season after basically being their marquee signing so far. Chelsea are going to be using Jackson as their striker. That seems pretty clear. I think they are trying to get a deal done for João Felix. And also apparently they're still trying to finalise the transfer of Conor Gallagher to Atletico Madrid. They've actually given Atletico a deadline until the end of today to basically get that paperwork sealed and to get that deal over the line, or else Chelsea will be asking Conor Gallagher to return from Madrid. He's already there, to return from there back to Chelsea. And then I would think maybe, unless they really go for someone rogue or splash even more cash, which it's now looking like, I don't know, they can't be an endless pit of money. I think they ain't going to have Jackson. But I do think they will. I think Gallagher will get done, and I do think they'll get João Felix. So I don't think Felix will be up to speed, though, for the first game. So probably Nicholas Jackson will be their striker. Yeah, I'm going to say Chelsea 0, Manchester City 1. Probably something vintage De Bruyne or Haaland to score. Okay, last game. This one I'll go a bit more in depth. I know I've basically been going in depth for now, but yeah, those were, I tried to be as summarized as possible for the other predictions. The main one and the final game. Look, it's always a lot of. I think it's nice and it's not nice to be the final game the of the game week. What's nice is you know some of the other results, and it can motivate you to get the result that you need. It can elevate your performance. The bad aspect is it can also have an opposite effect. It can put a lot of pressure on you. You know, if a lot of the other top big six teams have basically, if they've all won their games, now Spurs go there, they're away from home, opening game of the season, and now it's a newly promoted team, new manager. You don't quite, it's an X factor there. You don't quite know what they're going to bring, and you now you need to get all 3 points. And now, Leicester, they've just come up, they won the championship quite convincingly with Maresca, but now unfortunately he got immediately snatched up by Chelsea. So now they went for Steve Cooper. I don't think that was a terrible appointment. I think Steve Cooper is a decent appointment. Their other main option was Graham Potter. I think Potter would have been a slightly better caliber, but maybe not after seeing what he did when he was at Chelsea. But if you look at what he did when he was at Brighton, I think he could have replicated that quite firmly at Leicester. But I think Steve Cooper is decent. I think he was a pretty solid second choice. Is he a guy that's going to get them to the top 10, to the European places? No. Is he someone that could keep Leicester up? I think so, yes. By the skin, I think he's someone that strikes me as he can get them to, 14th to 17th. But bear in mind, they have a points deduction as they arrive in because of parachute spending that they overspent when they went down from the Premier League into the Championship. So yeah, unfortunately, I think without the points deduction, he could have got them 14th to 17th. With a points deduction, I think the best maybe Steve Cooper can hope for is maybe 16th, and a very decent chance. So a lot of people have actually put them stone last. I think it's not even a terrible shout. With the, new manager, lost the guy that had them flying high, lost Dewsbury Hall straight to Chelsea now. That's a double blow. Lost Maresca and Dewsbury Hall, who were vital for them last season. Still got relying on a 39-year-old Jamie Vardy as their primary striker. From what I can gather, I think they're going to struggle, and I think that the Spurs will have a good go at them this game. I think Ange might try and really, prove a point in this first game and say, look, we're here to play. I'm here to compete. I'm here to play my style of football. I think Spurs are going to just press and attack continually. I think Leicester will catch us on one counter probably, or one corner. Most likely, that's usually how it goes in these games. But I'm gonna go with Leicester 1, Tottenham 3. I think Tottenham we will. I just know we will. I think there's gonna be very few games this season, just like last season, where we don't concede a goal. I think even if we win big some games, we're still gonna let in 1, 2, 3, whatever goals. It's gonna be very few clean sheets, guys. Very few clean sheets. Who do I think is going to be the starting lineup for Spurs? Most likely, I think Andrew's going to want to, just basically, because the first game of the season, you want to show what you got. You want to show everyone what you're made of. I think you're going to, maybe later on the season when you're playing someone like this, you might go for a bit of rotation, but it's the first game of the season. You want to get the guys up to speed. I think he's going to go with Solanke and striker. Son and Johnson on the wings, Madison as the number 10 central attacking midfielder, Basuma as the 6, the defensive midfielder, and Sarr the number 8 box-to-box midfielder. And then I think the back 4 and the goalkeeper will be the same ones we started but used basically the whole of last season. It will be Udogie, Van der Ven, Romero, Porro, and Vicario. And I think that's pretty solid. You'll have Gray there off the bench. You'll have Bergvall off the bench. You'll have Spence off the bench. You'll have Davies there. For like emergencies. You'll have looks like you'll have Ash Phillips there. You'll have Mikey Moore there. You'll have Will Lancashire there. You'll have Richarlison there. You'll have Kulusevski there. Bentancur there. Yeah, I mean, it's quite. You'll have Austin, Forster, Solomon, Werner. So yeah, I mean, the squad really doesn't look that unhealthy. I think we could maybe still do with one, maybe two more transfers this window to be an optimal window. I think the two main ones, if we really wanted to fully optimize Spurs before September comes, we'll have added a right winger and a right back, or just a full back that can play right and left. Then I think we really will basically have had almost a perfect window, if I'm honest. Yeah, so I think I'm really happy that I'll be happy with that lineup. But Leicester 1, Tottenham 3. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. I'm keen to hear what everyone thinks. And yeah, and as always, I'm looking forward to the games this weekend, especially to Spurs on Monday night, 9 o'clock, South African time. And as always, come on, you Spurs.